Good morning. I'm glad we're indoors today, right? All this beautiful rain, the grass needs it, the lakes need it. Good day to be indoors. So thank you for coming to the 2024 Senior Expo. And this morning for our very first session, we have Jenna Pogorels, is the Associate Director of Community Services for the Alzheimer's Association for Minnesota and North Dakota. Jenna works out of the Duluth office and has been with the association for 11 years. So let's welcome Jenna.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here this morning. As was mentioned, my name is Jenna, and I work at the Alzheimer's Association. I have a background in social work, so I've been doing this a little while now, and just really glad that you're here this morning to go over some of this information. If you find some information that might be helpful for you, I do have a table downstairs as well, so please come find me and find some information or talk to me, ask me questions. I'm happy to help out. So if you want to jump to the next slide. This class is really going to just be a short 15-minute intro into Alzheimer's and dementia. I was telling folks earlier, I typically talk for about an hour on this, so I'm going to, in my brain, concise everything really quickly for you all. But again, feel free to ask questions. Go ahead to the next slide, and we can go ahead and play that first video.
As we get older, cognitive problems become more noticeable for almost everybody, and it can vary from person to person. Typically with age, people have trouble coming up with the word they want right when they want it. They have trouble remembering names, and they don't think quite as quickly. What's more concerning, or what might be the beginning of a memory problem, is people have a lot of trouble coming up with words or names, and it's happening more frequently, and the words or names don't necessarily come to them later. And then they start misplacing things, but not just once in a while, because we all misplace things, but more often. And it begins to interfere day to day. That should be a warning sign for people that this might be the beginning of a memory problem.
And as you mentioned, and I'm sure many of us in this room may have misplaced things or how many of us have walked into a room and said, why am I here again? Or I know that person, but the name's not coming to me. That's part of that normal aging process, and so we talk about that being as we age, our brain tends to slow down a little bit. We tend to take a little bit more time to process information, very normal part of our aging process. Dementia and Alzheimer's disease is not the normal part of a normal aging process. So we'll talk a little bit later, about the 10 warning signs, and I have a great publication of a bookmark downstairs you can come get, and we can chat more about it, but we can go ahead and play that second video if you would.
Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. There are many possible causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular dementia, which is marked by changes in the blood flow and the blood vessels in the brain. Dementia with Lewy bodies, identified by specific brain changes throughout the brain that include the buildup of a protein known as alpha-synuclein. And frontal temporal dementia, which is marked by brain cell loss in the front sections of the brain, or the frontal lobe. Each type of dementia may have distinct characteristics to cause specific behaviors in the individual, but there is also some overlap in behaviors among the types of dementia.
So I just want to reiterate kind of what Dr. Snyder was talking about. And one of the big questions we get at the Alzheimer's Association is, what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's disease? Are they the same thing? And why do those terminology be used interchangeably? So I just want to take a quick moment to just readdress what Dr. Snyder just mentioned. Dementia is that general term that we talk about for loss of cognition or thinking skills. This could be in memory loss, planning and organizing. It could be in communication. There's a lot of different thinking skills that we have. And dementia, if someone gets a diagnosis of dementia, all it is saying is something is impacting their brain, so they have a loss of cognition skills. Alzheimer's disease is one form of dementia. One cause of dementia. So often when I'm talking with families or individuals, I always say, if someone gets a diagnosis of dementia from their doctor, my first question back to my doctor would be, what's causing this dementia? Because there's over 50 different types of dementias out there. These are the ones that were up there earlier under the umbrella were the leading causes of dementia. So Alzheimer's disease being the number one cause, 50 to 70% of individuals living with dementia do it due to Alzheimer's disease. But we also know that there's Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal dementia, mixed dementias, which is a mixture of them, vascular dementia. There's dementia related to Huntington's disease, dementia related to Parkinson's disease. So there's a lot of different forms of dementia or causes to dementia. So I just want to kind of highlight that. Again, we've got some great information downstairs that you can come and we can chat more about it too. But go ahead and play that third video.
Alzheimer's disease is marked by specific brain changes that result in the clinical changes in individual experiences. That is, changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. And ultimately, Alzheimer's is fatal. The exact cause for these changes is unknown, but there are some hints as to what may contribute to an individual's risk. Age is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's. And when we look at populations of people, we see an increased risk over the age of 65. However, Alzheimer's is not normal aging. Family history is also a known risk factor. Research has shown that those who have a parent or a sibling with Alzheimer's are more likely to develop the disease, and that risk increases if more than one family member has Alzheimer's. When we talk about the genes involved in Alzheimer's, there are two categories that could potentially be involved: risk genes and deterministic genes. Risk genes increases an individual's risk for developing the disease, but does not guarantee that they will develop Alzheimer's. Deterministic genes, which are rare for Alzheimer's, guarantee that the person will develop the disease.
So I just want to highlight again a little bit for the risk factors, because this question comes up a lot too, or we'll hear comments about, oh, my parent or my grandparent or all my aunts and uncles have been diagnosed or my cousin's been diagnosed. And so I just want to kind of reiterate this, that the greatest known risk factor is age. So we're all at that risk factor as we age. So it's about 1 in 10 right now over the age of 65 have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, and about 1 in 3 at age 85. So you can see the different changes in the age range that we have with what we see statistically. There's also a few population groups that have statistically a higher number, and there's a lot of research still going into this. Some of it is around lifestyles and how we can reduce risk factors and things like that, but we do know that Black Americans are about twice as likely than their white counterparts to have Alzheimer's disease. Hispanic Americans are about 1.5 times likely, and about 2/3 of individuals living with dementia or Alzheimer's disease are women. Part of that is women tend to live longer. We see men pass away earlier due to heart disease and things like that, and because this is an age-related disease, there's some, that's part of the reason why we see that. You can jump to the next slide. I think the next one is a test. We're testing you early on a Saturday morning. But go ahead to the next screen here. I think you'll get it. It's a 50-50. We've mentioned it a few times. Show of hands, Alzheimer's is a normal part of aging. How many say true? How many say false? All right, click through it. Let's see, it is false. So Alzheimer's is not a normal part of aging. Now, the slowing of the brain, the general sometimes forgetfulness, the walking in the room thinking, what did I come in here for? And maybe remembering about 15 minutes later when you're somewhere else, or walking up and misplacing your car keys, misplacing your purse, but being able to retrace your steps, all part of normal aging. So go ahead and bump through this. So we just talked about it, so it's a little bit of recall here. What is the greatest known risk factor? Age, I heard it, thank you. Age is the greatest known risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, so we just mentioned it. Other risk factors do include lifestyle pieces that we do have some ability to modify, which is those who have heart disease, high risk of vascular dementia. We also see obesity, hypertension, diabetes. So if we all think about what is healthy for our heart is healthy for our brain. There's a huge heart-brain connection. So always thinking about what's healthy for your heart is going to be healthy for your brain. Go ahead, next slide. We'll kind of jump through here. I mentioned that there's 10 warning signs we go through. So these are the 10 warning signs that we talk about. I'm not going to go through each one of them. I'm going to highlight a few of them just to highlight them. But number one, typically people with Alzheimer's disease will notice short-term memory loss. Their family might notice, their friends might notice that short-term memory loss. This kind of memory loss is about, 5 minutes ago, what I had for breakfast, what happened last week. Typically, individuals have pretty intact what we call long-term memories, meaning those memories from the past when maybe they were a child, or maybe they were raising their own children, or just got married, were in high school, college, whatever that might look like for them. So the long-term memories stay with someone for a longer period of time. I'm not going to go through all these like I mentioned, but I want to highlight that there's one of the biggest, I think, changes that people don't recognize or might not know is that there's a visual change with dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So as we age, our field of vision gets a little bit narrower. For someone with dementia, it almost becomes binocular-like. So they lose quite a bit of their peripheral vision to the side and below. And I think it's just something to note that if you're seeing folks have a challenging bumping into things, this is why we always have a conversation early on about driving too, because it's not just reactionary time and judgment, it's also just a change in vision, and we want to make sure that people are safely being able to see road signs, things like that. And then the only other ones I'm going to mention, and again, I've got more clarification of these downstairs, so come find me, is number 9 and 10, which is around withdrawal from activities. So as we age, we do know that some older adults go through some depression or go through some changes in mental health. This is very different for folks with dementia. So they might start to withdraw from going to church, to going to their lunch events, things like that. So they might start to withdraw more out of anxiety, knowing that there's something going on, that they're having some challenges in conversations, they're having some challenges in remembering people's names, things like that. So they might see them withdraw a little bit more. Okay, we can bump through to the next slide. Just a bit of a recap here. So it is, not everyone will experience all of those 10 warning signs either. For someone to have dementia, I would say most will start to experience about half of those signs when they go into the doctor and notice something. So not everyone's gonna show the vision changes right away. They're not gonna show the language changes right away. It's gonna be different for everybody. But those are kind of some of the general things we see early on. If you see one or more of those signs, we always advise to go to your doctor. There could be other causes, including medication interactions, depression, like I mentioned, nutritional deficiencies, things that we can treat that are causing these cognitive changes. So we always want to rule out anything that can be treated before we move on for further testing for dementia. Go ahead to the next slide, please. I think one last video here.
There are a number of benefits in early detection of Alzheimer's. For one thing, a person is able to have a voice in what happens next. They can make plans. They can live life more on their own terms. They can also make plans for the future, financial plans, care plans. They can let people know what they want, which can be a real gift later on. It also allows time for families to make plans and to make decisions about who can do what and figure out care and those kinds of issues. Some people are interested in clinical trials. Clinical trials allow people to have access to treatments that aren't available yet. And for some people, that can be a really important thing to pursue.
Again, just to highlight a little bit what Ruth was talking about, and because we are now in the era of treatment, some of you may have heard of some of the new medications that are out for Alzheimer's disease that are really touching the underlying biology of the disease. Those are FDA approved for mild cognitive impairment or the early stages of dementia. So this is why we really focus on early detection, kind of watching for those 10 warning signs and getting ongoing assessments from our doctors. So I just want to quickly go through some of our resources at the Alzheimer's Association. Again, I have all of this downstairs with me as well. But we do have availability 24/7. So we are available via our phone. We have a 24/7 helpline. It's right up there. I've got cards downstairs. I've got magnets downstairs. You can have mastered level clinicians to do care consultations with individuals on the phone. So if you're just have questions, there's no question too big or too small for our helpline. Please feel free to give us a call if you're looking for resources, if you're just having a question about dementia, give us a call. We have a very, very, very extensive website at alz.org. Please feel free to peruse it. It's broken down into different pieces around caregiving, different pieces there's online caregiver resources, a lot of great resources, a lot of great education. All of our classes are available online to take. We also do them in person and virtually via Zoom as well. So please feel free to come chat with me about that if you're interested. And then we also have a database that we call the Community Resource Finder. And that's where you can find all the great information, programs in your local area. And just additional, we partner with AARP on that, so there's also additional programming from them as well. Can jump to the next slide. There's ways to get involved with the Alzheimer's Association. Has anyone done the Brainerd Walk to End Alzheimer's before? Newbies. Well, if you're wanting to join us on a beautiful September Saturday morning, we have our annual Walk to End Alzheimer's in Brainerd. I believe this year it's September 21st. I've ordered no rain for it, so it won't be like today because we're outside mostly. Sometimes we go inside. It's at Forest View Middle School in Baxter. But come and join us. It's a great day. We usually have an opening program. It's just really nice to be connected to others who have been impacted by this disease and raising dollars and funds for research as well as current programs and services. We're always looking for volunteers, so if you're interested in becoming a community educator, to do classes like these, to join our walk committee, to be a support group facilitator, we always have the opportunity to have you join us and love it. So please feel free to give us a call and let us know. So I have 9:18 here, which is significantly good for me, who is used to talking for like hours on the subject. So I'm happy to entertain any questions y'all may have. I just want to thank you again for taking this quick journey with me in the introduction of dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I will be downstairs at my table, so you're also welcome to come find me there and look for additional resources. But just want to say have a fantastic rest of your morning, and thank you for being here.